China have to balance between the growth and the structure change and the reform and manage the shadow banking and the corporate debts. So it is a very complicated task. Current Chinese government policy also very clear. They let the economy to go, but also they do the reform restrictions and try to move the economy from less investments driven to the more consumption driven, which may reduce the growth rates. To support the growth rates, they open new areas, they call the targeted investments areas. For example, invest in the energy efficiency sectors, invest in climate change. This portion in investments probably will support the growth, offset the growth may drops from the structure change for the whole economic sectors. But meanwhile, it's also further push the reform agendas. You see it opening the service sector really worked out. Last year's first time, the service sector account now 46% of GDP. First time. Meanwhile, the government tightened the regulatory policy frameworks on the shadow banking sectors, on trust funds, because we saw these three strategies moving together to dealing with the challenges China facing today. We sense that the Chinese government will be able to manage those challenges and move forward. So we remain confident China will have the growth rates around 7.5% this year.
Do you think some small stimulus package that are relatively small in their amount is helpful in boosting the country's economy?
I think it's not only in boost the Chinese economy, but also in terms to enhance the structure change as well. Because China's things not only support the economy, but also overall balance the whole quality of life.
Last but not least, how do you think China's rebalancing progress will have an impact on emerging markets and also the global economy?
It's a very good question, because many people concerned the Chinese growth rates will further drop or not. We see the Chinese growth rates more or less were stable around 7%, which is good news. But does that mean the Chinese global impact will be stabilized? Maybe not, because China will continue to rebalance internal economic structures, which will have continuous impact on the global economic structure as well. For example, the real impact from Chinese economies to the outside of China is investments. We estimate 1% of GDP Chinese investment drop may have from 0.2 to 0.4% GDP drop impact for Chinese trade partners. China needs, for example, drop 10% GDP of investments. So in that sense, China's internal rebalancing structural reform impact for the whole world will be big. But that's good, because meanwhile, that means China's domestic consumption will pick up, China will import very different things. So then China will import more consumer goods and may dealing with a different group of countries and which will have the global economic and trade structure change as well. I think that will be the Chinese impact and for the whole world, and that will last for quite time.